what's up?
I regret that instantly.
It's A-Dog
No.
with the Nash Master.
Oh, dear God.
Hey, guys.
Okay.
It's Andy,
Yes, it is.
and this is Nash
Hello. Of Death and Friends.
of Nashville.
Okay. Also of that.
Andy of Andy Stan. No? Fine.
There's nothing with an Andy in it, really?
Andyville? Weird.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Andyland? Pedos.
Yeah. All right. I hear it now.
Andifornia? Diseased. Like, yeah, there's no options.
Okay. Fine. I just assumed somewhere in the world.
No,
Okay.
there's not.
All
You've got Nashville. I've got D's nuts. I don't know. Anyways, welcome back. This is Andy. This is Tomorrow Today. We are wrapping up our wonderful season 1 of us doing this for some reason,
Yes.
and people are listening, and that's cool. We're happy to have you. We are on episode 20. We've done 18 interviews. We did the intro. Now we're doing this thing for number 20, I think. So we've covered numbers. We love them here.
We do.
Thank you, Dr. Chris Fuchs, for teaching us about numbers, theoretically.
Oh, nice.
We've covered a lot of different things this season.
Well, you've covered a lot of different things.
You've covered one thing and then some other things.
Yeah.
How about that?
Okay.
But we've talked about a lot of things, so there's that too.
There is that.
So what did you learn that was the most shocking
Oh,
from
man.
18 episodes?
From 18 episodes. Wow. Okay, well, I'll tell you the least shocking thing first.
Was it death that it exists?
No, I was going to say that Ruth Goodman is like literally a gem of a human being.
Okay, that's fair.
Least surprising thing on earth. Wow, the most surprising thing that I've learned? I actually really think it was my first interview.
How to interview? Was that it?
Well, yes, also that. I don't have a ton of social skills, so this is something I had to work on.
Plot twist, everyone. This is actually like my grad school for education
Yes.
project of how to
I'm
get
an
somebody to
intern.
come out of their shell. And she didn't know it until just now. Guess
Yeah.
what? This is all about you.
Oh my god.
There's no actual audience. We're not even putting this online.
That's fascinating. So this is like Creed thoughts.
Yes. This is just for you
It's just for me and
my weird twisted games.
for me to be able to, those poor people that I interviewed for no reason, right?
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, they were in on it. They're not real scientists.
They're not real people.
I mean, they're real people.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yes, I'm not that good of a magician here that I can just create fake people. Where I'm also with you at the same time sometimes.
Are you? I don't know. Maybe I'm starting to just have like a Shutter Island moment.
Not real.
Yeah, where I just slowly find out that I'm recording a podcast and I think that there's another voice. It's like Fight Club, but with pandemic overtones.
Yes. Oh man, now he's not real. You guys get it? He's not gonna say anything for the rest of this episode.
Okay, you asked about the most shocking thing. I'll actually give you a legitimate answer on that. It was the first episode I ever did. Ever did? No, that's not true. Just in this podcast. I interviewed Dr. Susanna Monceau, who was working on animals having a concept of death. Okay? And now, I've studied death for a really long time. It's like one of my weird passions. But it never occurred to me that animals were capable of measuring and achieving some notion of death and dying that puts them sort of in this like bucket of, are they sentient? Why are we defining death and grieving by human standards when there are so many other things on the earth that live with us that also interact with death? And I think that was really one of those things that I was just like, that made me look at my cats and my dog very differently after the fact. Like, I know that they were going to eat me. That was whatever. Kind of hope they enjoy it. But I never had been like, man, they might be sad or they might have expectations of what that grief and dying look like. So for me, that has still sat with me.
So your dog has Rexpectations?
Oh, dear God.
Do you want me to go
Thank
away
you for
again?
coming back.
That's interesting. I vaguely remember her talking about the whales.
Oh, yeah.
So that-
the whale carrying the
Yeah.
dead baby. Yeah. That was
So-
a bummer.
Yeah, that was a good interview. I mean, I think we've had all good interviews. Not to toot my own podcast. Pod my own cast?
No.
Cast my
Just
own pod?
Stop while
I
you're
like
ahead.
cast my own pod. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Not to cast my own pod, but they're all good interviews.
So what did you learn? What was like your big shocking fact?
I was not prepared for the question that I gave you.
I was going to say, I think
the
also for
teachers
me,
become the master.
if I had to have a second answer. I do think
Jesus, just rub it in.
Sorry. I do think the multiverse conversation we had with Dr. Fuchs was also like very crazy, right? Because I went and
That's
this
the closest to drugs I've ever felt without drugs.
Right? It did have like an element of like psychedelic behavior. You know, I studied so hard for that interview because he scares me as a person and also as a scientist. And, you know, I remember leaving being like, okay, that wasn't that bad. And like I could sort of decompress from the fear. And then later I was like, God, the multiverse isn't real.
Your brain didn't have the processing power to deal with that at the moment.
I'm very slow. It's fine.
When you asked me, then I was like, I'm going to blank and forget every interview I've ever done.
Yeah. That's why I tried to not ask you directly, but then I asked you directly.
I think Charles was the
most handsome.
I mean, duh. But, sorry, Peter. But I don't know, he's so insightful, and he's one of those people you can have a really good, genuine conversation with, and like some really interesting things will come out of it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really necessarily walk away with like wow, I feel like I know something I didn't, but I felt more at peace with what I did know in a different way. And I think that's more of like an emotional knowledge than an actual like factual thing that you've developed the knowledge of.
Right.
I don't know if that would be my favorite or like most insightful, but it was a good one. It was one I really enjoyed.
I mean, he is the nephew of James Cameron, so it's hard not to, you know, interact with him and just feel very supported. And
it's canon now.
It's canon now. We said it online.
It's been recorded. It can be cited. It's done.
Yes, his uncle is Titanic's James Cameron.
All you can think of is the home movies. The guy who does the film camp. I was the snack services for James Cameron.
Yes, that same.
And I say, how you doing? You want more fruit? And he'd laugh because we worked on the same movie together.
And he did want more fruit.
Such a good show. If you haven't watched home movies, highly recommend it. We're obviously going to have H. John Benjamin on the show next season.
Obviously. He knows quite a bit about the future of the economy and also warfare.
And also Bob's Burgers.
Oh, yes. Right. That's why we had him on.
Will have. Not have.
Sorry. Yes.
Don't give it away, Nash.
Sorry. And Peter Ginn, too. We're coming for you, buddy. We're collecting them.
Got to get that trifecta. If you want to go with Alex Langland's, you can do that on the Poor Proles Almanac.
Oh, man. Now we're plugging other shows.
Well, if you really want the trifecta, you have to go there. Go big or go home. That's true. As they say.
Or we could just have him back on. That's also fine.
Or we can do that.
Yes. Alex, sorry. You're coming back.
Yeah, it's been a year of making these podcasts, and I don't know. We've been shooting the shit with each other and doing this. Is it what you expected as a person who has not been on a podcast with interviews?
Yeah.
You know, I obviously have done dozens before we had done this.
Oh, sure. Just dozens.
Dozens.
Dozens. In the tens, you guys.
Like in the teens. The high uzens.
Journalistic integrity.
Yes. Was this whole process like what you expected?
Okay, so you know that you're like one of the only people on the earth that I can have like a functional conversation with that sounds like a conversation that humans might have, because we've known each other for literally an eon. But I actually went into this being very excited about the premise, being very excited to talk to people, but also having the limitation of not being very good at talking to people. So I think that was like my big hurdle, right? Was like learning. And I think I did it. I don't know. You guys can leave a review if I haven't quite done it yet. But I think I'm slightly more comfortable at navigating what I think it might take someday to do an interview.
Someday,
maybe.
Someday you can guide that ship.
Someday I'll be just like you.
You can captain that ship.
Doing my teens of interviews.
Doing your teens of interviews like a teen. Living your teen life.
Yes. Thriving in my flop era.
Your flop era. Come a long way. It's been really fun to see.
Aww.
Aww.
The genuine heartwarming moment.
Yeah, that's as close as it gets.
Oh, okay.
So now that we're in 20 episodes, thinking back to when we started this show, what we had envisioned the show, I feel like it's changed. I don't know if you do at all. You know, I feel like when we had started the show, we had this very like explicit, specific idea of this podcast is going to exist as a nexus for academic research to be explained at an accessible level for people that are not highly specialized in these fields.
Right.
And to navigate these really nuanced discourses for contemporary research and how that is going to whittle down into changes in our future. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean like, I think people initially hear that and they think science and tech, and that's obviously a piece of it. But like, there's a number of things that are going to impact what the future looks like, including people looking at primary source documents and relearning what history actually happened, how that's going to change how kids learn history and how they grow up and interpret the world differently fundamentally because of how that history for them was different. So that was always kind of what the vision was for the podcast, at least for me. And I think we've kind of strayed a little bit from that, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Right. It was interesting. I think when we first started this, it felt very academic to me because you and I are both academics, or former academics, I guess. And so for us, this was sort of like a labor of love, like translating it out. But I do feel like along the way, we sort of stumbled into this nice notion of academia being an ideology more than it is like a space, right? It's not just people who have doctorates, right? It's not just people who participate in university research. Academia for us, I think, has become sort of a shifting kind of
Ground.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so like sort of like a shifting space, really, where it's not just like this ivory tower bullshit. Everybody has to have 100 letters after their name in order to be taken seriously. You know, we talk about the merits of Wikipedia on this show. And I think that was one of the first times, for me, it felt like we were saying something that was also different about what we perceive as academic or research. It's not just those things. It's, also the future of pornography.
Or talking to Peter Michael Bauer about the problems of academics driving historical research.
Right.
Which is its own challenges go with that as well, because that means you have to go through and be force-fed this institutional understanding of how history is created. And it's presented in a way that seems objective, but is fundamentally subjective through the institutions that create it.
Right.
So I think we have veered a bit away from that idea of fundamentally thinking about what our role is with the podcast as like this transitory piece for academic, very jargon heavy research that needs to be translated for the average person or whatever.
Right.
And instead has become more of it's much more valuable to talk to a sex worker than a researcher on how sex work is changing and evolving and what that future probably looks like.
Right.
And that's okay, and that's good, and that's really liberating to think about understanding expertise that you don't need to have these degrees. And also that, conversely, we see this happening, or concurrently, we see this happening in terms of, Substack and Medium, and where people that are researchers or maybe aren't, the top tier researchers from, the best universities, but they are really good at translating things into accessible knowledge. And that's become a very big thing is, hey, I'm a doctor and I'm going to explain some things to you that, is happening in research that's really important. And I can explain it in layman's terms. I might not be from Harvard, but I'm good at this.
Right.
And that's a skill set that, we're kind of a part of, and also in a weird, pivotal way. And I don't mean pivotal as necessarily important, but literally as that transitory space in terms of how we start to understand, digest, and engage with the work of people that are on the front lines of whatever it happens to be that we bring on the show.
Right. Yeah. And I think, it's been interesting sort of dipping our toes in different spaces. I mean, not really for me, but more for you.
You do too, some of them.
Some of them. And thinking about challenging our own ideas and our own sort of held beliefs. I think that's been also fun for me. Thinking about the episode we did on video game therapy, or, I almost said non-consensual monogamy.
Oh, consensual non-monogamy. Non-consensual monogamy is also a thing. If you ask,
it's a real shotgun wedding type shit.
It's definitely a thing. So don't feel bad.
It really happens. It just wasn't what we talked about on the show. Thinking about some of those things that I think are becoming more culturally prevalent that maybe haven't impacted our lives yet. But You know, and I think it's been beneficial for us too to have some of these conversations, to have this space in which to be forced to reach out to people being like, hey, you're cool, and I bet you talk about cool things. I think that's been fun too. But I'm curious. Okay, so we do a show called Tomorrow Today, right?
And now it's tomorrow, and then it was today.
Yes.
But it's also tomorrow now and today.
Stop doing this.
Okay.
Australia. So I'm curious we've talked about where we are right now. We've just wrapped somewhere in the 20s, or maybe just 20 episodes.
20 episodes.
So what does the future of Tomorrow Today look like? Tomorrow.
More tomorrows, less todays.
Oof. That's tough for us.
It's not a good look, no.
No.
But seriously, I do think we started the show very academically heavy, and we went kind of the opposite way. Some areas that we really didn't talk about were the history side of things. Like, we talked about it on like a bigger picture.
Right.
Like, I do think something we'll talk about more in the next season is like, let's look at very specific things and how our kids are going to understand history because of things people are discovering today.
Like the Wonder Chicken.
Like the Wonder Chicken. And how that is going to fundamentally change how like kids see dinosaur toys or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like their dinosaurs are all going to be feathered. Like that is just mind blowing for us. And that's just going to be normal for them. Like they're not going to think it's weird that a 60-foot thing looks like a fucking turkey.
A chicken, actually.
Turkey.
A turkey. A turducken of dinosaurs.
A churducken.
But also like thinking about Dr. Julie Carpenter's interview about robots and how we'll understand humanity through the lens of robots. And now we've got that chat AI robot that like wanted the nuclear codes a couple days ago.
So you might be hearing this before nuclear Armageddon, and you didn't even get to learn about the chicken dinosaurs.
Yeah. But also, like, why do we keep inventing technology that wants to be sentient and then immediately wants to kill us? Like, we should probably just stop doing that.
Well, first off, it really says a lot about the person who coded it, because either they're really good at being objective or they really hate themselves.
Well,
One
I do.
of the
I
two.
think it has like a user, like it learns based on the user. So this is like sort of a Bodie McBoatface situation where like the internet just
Except it's like,
dumps the worst shit into it and just and then is surprised that it's like terrible and racist and it wants us to die.
what's in the future for you that is not death?
Oh man, I have to not talk about death for a while. I would like to get through a couple episodes and look at something else, but I do feel like unfortunately I can bring death into just about every conversation, so it is going to be a struggle for me.
The struggle of the life of Nash.
Well, the life and death of Nash.
The life and death. God, when you die, I'm going to do such a big episode. Actually, I'm going to do like an episode that's short and inappropriately incorrect. So that you have to come from the grave to yell at me about how I like was talking about. And then she said, you know what I really want? I want to be cremated and then shot into the sky because
I
it's
hate
so
you so
good
much.
for the environment.
I want to be composted. I'm putting that on this podcast right now. Compost me like one of your French girls.
I mean,
Wait, no.
you
You're
know.
in jail.
Okay. Also, am I Jack the Ripper? Like, is that what you're trying to say?
They weren't French.
I mean, they could have been.
No, they weren't. Well, none of the victims that we know, but
Jack the Ripper.
oh, Jesus Christ.
You brought this on yourself.
Did I?
You did.
Oh. That was my big question. I don't have so many other questions.
Do you have nothing else you want to talk about?
I mean, I want to keep kind of talking about the Chat GI AI robot thing, but mostly because it's fascinating.
So you're going to be the AI person in this
No,
podcast.
no.
You're going to be hacker, elite hacker.
I'm fascinated by the idea that humanity is so determined to kill ourselves that we haven't even ended like world wars or climate change, but we're just going to invent technology that wants to take us out.
I like that it's basically the most capitalist thing ever. Like,
Yes.
we've created a middleman for suicide,
Yes.
like on a global scale.
Yeah, we were like, let's just toss
The
humanity in
MasterCard
there.
of
And then we're always
suicide.
like, oh my God, it doesn't like us? Like, we're so shocked. We're like, what if we were total garbage human beings and just dumped that right into the code? And the robot's like, okay, yeah, you should die. And we're like,
How dare you?
how could you say this to me, Esteban?
Why is the robot Esteban?
It doesn't matter. It's just his
I
name.
feel like I need to know this now.
It just is, okay? That's just his name. Just in this specific scenario, it's called Esteban and it hates me.
Okay.
personally.
Just you.
Just me.
You're
I
gonna
don't know
kill
how
the
to
planet
code,
just for you.
but I do think Esteban hates me.
It's because you don't know how to code.
But okay,
It's just the language of love.
I don't want to get too far because this is like not relevant to the podcast at all, really. But do you remember when we were children and Smarter Child was like the most mind-blowing piece of technology?
Smarter Child?
You don't remember Smarter Child?
Is that the AIM chatbot?
Yes. Okay, and you could go like talk to Smarter Child. It didn't know shit, right? It would just basically repeat you.
Yeah, I would say like anything you said plus like another 10 pre-programmed sentences.
Yes,
that
and
was
then
it.
it would be like, I don't know about that. Like most of the time, if you said something fucking weird.
Oh, if you said anything that wasn't like the easiest question for like a 3-year-old. Yes.
Yeah. And I remember being like, oh my God, the computers can talk. And like now we have chatbots being like, I want to be alive. And then immediately after being like, tell me the nuclear codes. Like,
You're really not letting that one go.
no, I'm not. It's hysterical to me. I have not stopped laughing about it in like 4 days.
It's so entirely predictable.
Sorry.
Anyways, yeah, so like what then,
There are a bunch of other things I would really like to talk about.
like,
Well, thinking about history specifically, I would love to talk about how pyramids are not grain silos. I think that might be an interesting conversation.
I don't think we need to have that conversation.
Are you sure?
What if we had that guy on the show?
The brain surgeon dude?
No, I thought he was like an Egyptologist, or he pretended to be an Egyptologist.
No. I'm thinking of not Ben Shapiro. The other Ben that was the worst. He was a kid brain surgeon, and he was like, pyramids are grain silos. You know what I'm talking about. He ran for president. Ben Carson. I got there all by myself.
They were talking about the meme guy. Aliens. Aliens.
Oh, we should have aliens on the show.
Can we just have just meme people on the show?
We do an entire season of memes. Where are they now?
I can tell you where they are. It's not good.
It's on the internet
All
all
of
the
them.
time,
Not good.
perpetually. No, but like sort of like doing some historical debunking, like a MythBusters type shit, but with like
That has nothing to do with...
I was gonna say less insurance. That might be tomorrow's problem.
That is definitely tomorrow's problem. Anytime we screw up, tomorrow's problem.
Tomorrow's
we are
a problem.
today.
Yes, so we only focus on today because the tomorrow is after a comma, and whatever happens after a comma is none of my business.
Commas are walls. Tear
Yes.
down this wall, Gorbachev.
Don't do that. What is this banter even?
So, remember back in like... I mean, we weren't alive in the 50s and 60s. but
Back in the 50s and 60s.
But remember, like, because you've seen them on, like, YouTube, or, like, they make fun of them in, like, contemporary TV. Like, the, like, home of the future
Yes.
stuff. Like, and, like, not a lot... Some of those things did happen, but a lot of them didn't. But also, what does that mean about our future homes?
Predictions.
Yeah, like,
Yes.
what is the future of architecture in a world where Category 5 hurricanes are not uncommon look like?
Oh, see, now you bummed me out. I was thinking this was going to be like a fun...
Like sex toys bump out of the walls kind of fun, or...
No, it's weird that's where you went. No, I was thinking like the big one in like the 1920s, right? When they were asked to like predict the future was going to be this like weird balloon lake walking. Like you would be able to walk on water carried and supported by balloons. And they were like, that's what people will do to get anywhere.
That's what they want.
This
That's
is
what the people want.
And I was kind of like, oh, what whimsical thing could we come up with that we haven't already thought of? Like, what are our big, like daydreams for humanity? But I think it's going to have to just be a bummer, and it's going to have to be like finding another planet to live on because we tanked this one.
I mean, that's very possible.
Or getting killed by aliens.
Oh, man.
But
We
you
got
know
to do
what?
an aliens episode.
Oh, we should do an aliens episode. But you know what? I think we should think about maybe investing in balloon water walking just to say we did it. You know what I mean?
put
Appease
on the human bucket list.
Yeah, appease the 1920s dreamers and learn to walk on lakes supported by balloons.
So I don't know if you know this, but
Mm-hmm.
like the homes of the future thing, like some of those things got built and then were actually in houses, and then we didn't do them anymore, and they were actually really good.
What were they?
So like if you go through some of the houses from the 40s, 50s, you'll see if they're like the nicer ones.
Yeah.
Like they would have built into the counter blenders. It'd be like the blender base.
Oh.
So like you could have a flat counter and just like stick it on. There's a switch, you turn it on and off. Right?
Look at that.
It was pretty cool.
Innovative.
Yeah. Couldn't do that now with proprietary technology.
Dicks.
Remember the days when your cell phone was like, could be one of 42 plugs?
Yeah.
And now it's only one of like 4.
So we did dream big. We just dreamt big in the weird directions.
We just realized it was more profitable to not do that.
Right, capitalism. That I forgot for a moment. For
Yeah.
one brief moment,
You thought we lived in a better world.
I forgot about capitalism. Wow, that was the nicest moment of my life. What a crushing realization.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of things that we can still unpack.
I want to talk about cults.
Cults?
Yeah.
We can do cults.
I would love to do cults. Let's find a cult leader. I actually want to interview somebody about the mega churches.
Could do some. I'm sure there's research on the mega churches.
Yes.
I would like to do stuff on the ocean, like with like the icebergs
Sharks.
melting and
Oh
like
man, that's gonna be sad.
yeah, and like the acidification of the ocean, like that seems like kind of a big deal we should be
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
We can definitely talk about like the impact. So one of the things that's getting really big on the news, and I think like this is classic boomer shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we built all these nuclear power plants like 50 years ago.
Sure.
They're all being decommissioned and they all have all this wastewater. Like not talking about the actual like rods, but like just the wastewater
Yep.
that they want to dump now and nobody wants it. And there's like reports from places where they have dumped it, like I think East Ireland, where they have like 4 times higher rates of leukemia compared to the rest of Ireland because of the nuclear power plant in England.
God damn it.
Yeah.
If that's what killed the dolphin, I'm gonna be furious.
I thought you were going to say JFK, and I was going to be real confused. But
Wow,
also,
he's not the only person that's ever died, all right?
That's
calm
obviously
down.
the takeaway. JFK is the only person who's ever died. Everyone else is
A fiction.
a government conspiracy.
Birds aren't real and neither are people.
They just put the people in bird shape. That's why there's so many birds now.
That's where the Wonder Chicken came from. He was just the first person. He was the Adam and Eve.
You mean so the giants were real?
Yes. And they were
It all
chickens.
comes together.
We've solved it. There's no more reason for us.
We are Q.
There's no more reason for us to do this podcast. We have solved it.
Whatever it is, you may never know. So yeah, it was a fun season. It was definitely a growing experience. I've had a lot of fun talking with you about it and seeing, I don't know, how this relationship has grown with the podcast. We're taking some time off just because we're both busy with other stuff.
Yes.
But we're going to come back in the summer and pick up with season 2. And we're already scheduling interviews and planning
Doing
the
work.
future.
Yeah. So when you were like, we're taking a break, we're not taking a break.
I mean, we are. We're just doing some things.
Your ears are taking a break from our nonsense. That's what's
No,
happening.
we'll take some time off. We're just some interviews that we had wanted to do got delayed, and now we're able to do them. So we'll be wrapping those up, probably recording them, sitting on them. You guys get to listen to them in the summer. We're going to be sitting by the beach or something, not the beaches in East Ireland.
Or the ones filled with corpses.
Or the ones filled... Well, actually, if that's a thing.
Oh, that's true.
I feel like you'd be into that. Come on, gotta get that beach body.
Yeah, but see, I don't want dead people in my butt.
Really? That was a great joke. Beach body? Got a slow simmer there.
I don't like you.
Okay. Any concluding thoughts?
Concluding thoughts. Today. That's my concluding thought. What if I just ended it right there? So powerful. What a thought.
What thoughts? Don't listen to our other podcasts. Oh yeah, I guess if somehow you've ended up here and you don't know where we are from otherwise, go check out Death and Friends. That's Nash's other podcast.
Yes.
She talks about death a lot more there, but not with interviews. So if you don't like her interviewing, you just like her banter, it's perfect.
You're like, wow, she really hasn't improved at all this season.
Terrible.
Go listen to the
I'm here
scripted show where I don't have to think about what I'm about to say.
So go check that out. If you are here because of me,
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. If you're obviously here because I'm Andy of the Poor Proles Almanac, which you know.
because you
obviously.
say it every time we start the show, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that's why. That's why.
No, so actually what I was going to say is if you don't know who I am or what I do, to go check out the podcast Poor Proles Almanac. And also the other show that I do, Gastropocene, which we talk about food systems and the future, or future driven by the way we eat.
Ooh.
So that is the Gastropocene. Get it? Like gastro stuff.
Yeah, I'm hungry. So.
Anthropocene, smash them together. Do it. Do the thing.
Yes. Do the thing.
Do
That's
the
how we're
thing.
going to end it.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys in July and go eat a corn dog or something.
No. 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 I'm ending the recording.